Well, good morning, ladies and boys, and welcome along to this fifth and final day of my time here on Gran Canaria with Canary Ride. You join me here at the Faro de Punta Sardina at the very top left corner of the island, where this lighthouse looks out over the Atlantic, and over here on the point you can see the rocks that the lighthouse is protecting the boats from. Oh look, that tiny speck over there is the Fred Olsen ferry that was in Agaete, which is just peeking out over there. So today's journey, starting off here in the top left hand corner in the shadow of the lighthouse, is pretty much just going to be taking in a bunch of roads that I found on the map that I haven't been on yet. That's right, there are still more roads that I haven't been on yet that looked proper wriggly and needed to be taken in. So let's go and get some wriggliness. I just have to wrestle the possibly stupidly on gravel parked bike with its slick front tyre back onto the road, and we can go and collect up the last curves of this trip.
Well, hello there, ladies and gents, and bienvenido a Gran Canaria.
Incidentally, this cheerleader's thigh smooth road is the GC 220. That's the GC 220. I don't know whether it's because there's not that many tourist spots up here or what, but I've just seen no traffic at all. And the road itself is definitely worth the journey. So when you look over the valleys like that, you see this mad mishmash of bits of road, and it's hard to imagine that they're all actually connected. So a bit pops up here, and a bit pops up down there, and a bit wriggles over there. Holy shit. The camera's probably not going to be showing that tremendously well, but that is a drop-off. No target fixation allowed here. I've got the bike back on sport mode today, and it's a lot more jumpy out of the bends. Afternoon. Well, that's it, it's 11 o'clock, so morning. What? The gravel shimmy there. this is absolutely brilliant. This is the GC217, by the way. I think we've been at this crossroads a few times by now. Taking a tiny section of the 210 again. I think still so far my favourite part of the whole island. And as always, I think every single ride on this trip, every single day, we've had some sort of view of the Roque Nublo in the background there. No, I've missed something. Something's gone wrong. Yep, I missed the turn. Standard operating procedure for me. Gotta go down here. Oh, no, I like it. I did expect that the roads on today's routing were going to be a bit more pokey and small, because they were just the little white ones instead of the yellow ones. So it seems about right. But we've actually changed direction now. This whole time up until this point we've been travelling south, give or take. And we're now actually heading back in a northerly sort of direction, which I guess doesn't really make sense with the sun on my face. As it is only April, the sun is almost always still in the southern hemisphere, isn't it? Check me out, Bear Grylls-ing it. Well, I suppose it's more Ray Mears, isn't it? If it was Bear Grylls, I'd be drinking out of a shitty pond and jumping off of something. But anyway, that means this is pretty much the last little run of incredible twistiness before I get back to the motorway up at the top of the island and then start heading back to the city, and then I have to give the bike back. My time with the Desert X is almost over. I'm sure you're wondering how I found it, and fear not. Once we get the technical twisty bits out of the way where I need to be concentrating just a little bit harder, I will have a quick run through of how I feel about the bike, the gear I've been using, and how I feel about all of that. And also the experience of using Canary Ride as well. So hold on tight for this natchety wriggly stuff, and we'll have a word about gear and stuff after that. Warrants having a stop and a look. Well, after checking the route, it seems like it's a bit of a serendipitous misreading of the Beeline on my part. I wasn't actually supposed to come up here at all, but what's going to happen now is I'm supposed to go over that way, and the bike has to go back over there. All those buildings are, that's Las Palmas, and at the end of the beach, pretty much, that's where Canary Ride's offices are. And obviously to get there, I have to go over this way through all of these wrigglies, and then across the front of the coast on the motorway. There are worse things to do with your afternoon, aren't there? And now it's on for the last little bit, the last little wriggly section before the bike goes back. So I'll talk to you about all of the stuff, and I guess the biggest one to talk about is the bike. Well, in short, Absolutely loved it. This thing has been fantastic. So enjoyable to ride. Super chuckable despite that 21-inch front wheel. Just been an absolute blast. The suspension is great. The handling is awesome. It's very confidence inspiring. It's very enjoyable, and overall I can't really fault it. The only things I haven't really liked are that it buzzes a bit more than my bike. The sound is a bit more washing machine full of spannersy than my bike. In case you haven't been following closely, I've now got the KTM 1090 Adventure, and I will admit the reason I picked this bike, as well as having tried one out at the SWMoTech Open Day and really liking it, because I wanted something similar format to the bike that I've got. V-twin, big ergos, bouncy springs, you know, just stuff that was going to be comfy on the rough roads and for a long time in the saddle. Which does bring me to the point that I do feel like this bike is a bit more cramped than the KTM is. I'm 6'4", just under. There's not quite so much room between the saddle and the pegs, but on my bike I do have the Power Parts Ergo heated seat, which is 20 centimeters higher than stock. But yeah, this bike's been an absolute champ. It's got plenty of grunt down low. Been able to take most of these hairpins in second gear without needing to feather the clutch too much. Quite often, not at all. It's also been incredibly frugal. Been getting about 5 litres per 100 kilometres on average over the last week, which is actually better than my bike, but this bike only has 110 horsepower versus the 125 of my KTM, so possibly explains some of the frugality. It's just tuned less for all-out power. But I absolutely have not been finding myself missing the power. Quite the opposite. I've felt like this thing has had plenty enough for this twisty madness. I don't see why on roads like this you would ever need more than 110 horsepower. And that little induction bob has also become very addictive throughout the course of this trip. So yeah, that's the bike. After that, what about the gear I'm wearing? I've got on the Nox Urban Pro Mark II summer jacket. They've actually just literally released last week the Urban Pro Mark III, which apparently is this jacket with various improvements and developments. But this jacket as it is, it's absolutely brilliant. It's got AA safety rating, and I've actually plugged in all level 2 pads on the shoulders, the elbows and the back. Couldn't get hold of a chest protector in time for this trip, unfortunately, but that's something I'm also thinking of getting very soon. The jacket's been comfortable, it's been functional. Above all, it's been really cool. When it's been hot, the air just whistles through this thing, keeps you nice and fresh. I haven't had any horrible sweaty, sticky moments at all on this trip. And then, when you whip out the waterproof jacket, I've got it tucked in my back pocket right now still, bosh that on top, and then the jacket's strength in the hot weather becomes an asset in the cold weather, because all of these little mesh bits and pockets of air, it just works like a string vest. So when it's got windproof protection on the top, suddenly you're cozy warm. I've been riding on this trip at temperatures as low as 10 degrees, and all I've done is whacked on the waterproof jacket, and suddenly my body core temperature just rockets up because the wind's off and now the jacket is an insulator. Absolutely brilliant, and I'm so glad to finally have been able to test it in the proper kind of weather that it's meant for. After that, I've got the Nox Shield single layer AAA protection level jeans. They are also fantastic. They fit really nice, they're really comfortable. They too have level 2 protectors on the hips and the knees. They're stretchy, they let the air through. They're lightweight, but without feeling so light that you don't feel protected. They're definitely heavier than a pair of ordinary jeans. On the bottom end of the jeans, I've got the Gaerne Dakar boots. To be honest, these boots are a bit of overkill for this trip because they are full ankle brace protected Gore-Tex adventure boots. But let you into a little secret, I've got these boots because now that I've got an adventure bike, I plan to do some adventuring. They're not made for walking, and that's not what they'll do, but they are made for getting dirty, and that's definitely going to be happening. But anyway, they've been really good, to be honest. Considering they are full real leather Gore-Tex lined boots, my feet have been really quite comfortable actually, despite the temperatures here, despite the sunshine, with the added bonus that with all of the on-the-peg stuff, standing up, looking out over the barriers, and when the things got rough, they do give you that extra bit of comfort and support because of the shank that's in the sole. And the ankle brace is always a really nice thing. It just makes you feel super protected, doesn't it? What? I thought this couldn't possibly have been the way because it was a car park and a playground, but turns out it actually is. Oh, I should say at this point actually that the Knox stuff was all provided to me free of charge by Knox for me to test, review, use, show to you lot, but no money has changed hands for any of the products that I'm going to tell you about in exchange for good reviews. What I tell you is exactly what I actually think. Whereas the Guyana boots, I actually bought them myself. I wanted to get the exact boots that I wanted, and these were the ones that looked like they were going to do the best job for me. And so far, nailing it. Back up to the top end, I've got the Knox Urban Pro gloves. These things are also brilliant. They've got ventilation on the palms, they've got the same material as the jacket on the backs of the hands. They're super flexible, they're really, really light. I've got a great feel through the bars, and I've had no sweaty finger moments either. Up to the very top end of the package, on me bonts. If you've followed the channel for a long time, you'll realise that I've dug out the old Nishwa Carbon Enduro. Always loved this helmet, it's always been the favourite one I've ever had, and now that I'm on an adventure bike again, thought it was probably about time to dig it out. And for this trip, it's been perfect. It's the lightest helmet I've ever had, it's the most comfort, and it's the most breezy, so it's kept my head nice and cool. It's been super comfortable, and with the massive eye hole, I've got great visibility in all directions. Plus, I'm a strong advocate for the peak. I think the peak really helps, especially when the weather's like this, because it just gives you that extra bit of shade from the sun on your eyeballs. On the side of the helmet, I've got the Cardo Pack Talk Edge. To be honest, it hasn't played that much of a role on this trip. All I've really done is listen to a bit of music and been ready in case the missus had an emergency phone call situation. On the front of the helmet, I've been rocking for the first time properly in anger the DJI Osmo Action 3. So far, I've been really, really impressed with this camera, and I was really happy when DJI actually released a firmware update giving more adjustability of the audio controls, and that allows me to use just this really simple mic adapter thing that I bought off of Amazon for like €10 and finally be rid of that hideous big contraption that the GoPros always came with. You can tell me what you've thought of the videos on this whole series. I'm hoping this might be the new daily driver for helmet cam footage. Incidentally, the Cardo and the camera are also provided by DJI and Cardo respectively. And then on the front of the bike, I've got the GoPro Hero 8 Black camera that I've had for several years now, and it's always been a bit of a staple really. It's reliable, the video's great. The only thing that I've noticed on this one now is that the batteries don't last so long because I'm pitting them against the Osmo Action 3, on which the batteries last forever. I actually bought 5 GoPro batteries on this trip and only 3 Osmo ones, and at the end of the day, the Osmo ones have still had a bit left, the GoPros have all been dead. And the GoPro itself is actually connected to the wing mirrors with the only mount that I've used on this whole trip, and that is the one that was actually sent to me as part of the motorcycle kit that DJI offer for their Osmo Action 3. And I'm really impressed with it, it's really good. It's very adjustable, it's nice and small and light, it's got a great big rubber damping jobby here, so hopefully lots of the vibrations aren't getting through to the camera. I would perhaps like if it was a little bit longer. I always feel like the views have been a bit close to me, whereas before when I was using ram arm stuff, it was always a bit further away. Down on the handlebars, I've been rocking the Beeline for navigation purposes, and it's been a bit of a mixed bag to be honest. But before I get to that, I've also got, it's called Van Rysel, the little mount thing there, which I actually bought here on Gran Canaria from Decathlon. Turns out that these things use the same quick lock mounting system as loads of Garmin cycling computers and various other cycling computers that you can get. So when you use a quick lock cycling computer mount, the Beeline will fit onto it. Anyway, Beeline, probably 75% of the time it's worked absolutely great. There've just been lots and lots of occasions where either I've cocked up because I've put waypoints slightly off the road and then you end up with stupid loops trying to get round, or if you miss the waypoint because you just went past it, then the Beeline sends you round and round in circles to go back and pick up that waypoint. Very annoying. You just need to really pay attention with waypoints. The other problem is I've come up to lots of situations where I've come up to a junction, there's loads of roads going in various different directions, and the arrow just doesn't give you enough to know exactly which one you're going to go on. In cases where the road forks 3 ways and the arrow, you could argue that it's pointing at all of them and it doesn't really help you until you've gone the wrong way, and then you get into the whole looping thing, and that's just very annoying. But yeah, on the whole, it has worked. I have always gotten to where I wanted to go. It's just not always been as smooth as I perhaps would have liked. Luckily for this whole trip, there's been no time pressure. It just hasn't really mattered. And I think then lastly, but by no means least, you've probably noticed I don't have any kind of tank bag on this bike. I could have taken an SW Motec tank bag from Canary Ride. They've got all the stuff fitted. So in order to carry my my essentials around, my batteries, my sunglasses, and of course a bit of water, because it's important to keep hydrated when the sun's beating down on the back of your head all day long. I actually bought myself a Kriega Trail 9 backpack. That's right, I bought this thing with my very own money, and to be honest, I'm really impressed with it. It's got room in the back for up to a 3.5 litre hydration reservoir. I've actually only got a 2 litre one because I don't think there's any day that I'm going to drink 3.5 litres of water. And incidentally, I didn't get the Kriega reservoir. I actually bought my reservoir as well from Decathlon here in Las Palmas, which cost me 16 euros. Far more reasonable than the Kriega 3.5 litre one, which cost you 50 odd euros. I mean, you could argue the Kriega one will undoubtedly last a lot longer, and the hose is insulated to keep your drinks warm or cold. I don't need that, and I was happier to stick 35 euros into the fuel tank rather than invest it in a bag that I'm going to hold water in. But yeah, the bag itself, this quad lock system from Kriega is absolutely fantastic. It's been comfortable the whole time. And then in the front, there's a 4 litre compartment, which is 100% waterproof with a roll top and 2 clips, which has been the absolute perfect size for me to stick in a power bank, a bunch of camera batteries, some sun cream, my sunglasses, spare memory cards, my wallet, my passport, you know, all the essential stuff that you want to have on you. As far as I know, that's everything that I've used. So that's all the equipment covered, that's the bike covered. So finally, just have to talk a little bit about Canary Ride. And first of all, I want to say thanks to you guys again so very much for providing the bike for me to ride. Again, they bunged me the keys to the bike, sent me on my merry way, but I've still had the shadow of the 2,000 euro excess hanging over my head. I've still had to put the fuel in, and they haven't paid me anything to say nice things about them, and I had to pay for the hotels and the flights myself as well. But with all of that boring legal arse covering nonsense out of the way, I will wholeheartedly recommend Canary Ride if you want to come and get some sunshine in the winter perhaps, or if you just want to come to an island where you can fly in, rent all the gear from them, get the bike, go and take in all of these incredible roads and mountains and views, and then give it all back, fly home, and you've had yourself a wonderful trip. Because they literally can offer you a complete turnkey solution. But the thing that's been the most important for me is the experience of arranging it. It was incredibly easy, because I actually went through the booking process as if I was coming here like an ordinary punter, and you can go onto their website, choose the bike you want, choose the days you want, choose which accessories, what gear you want, and then whack it into your basket at the end, pay for it, and the booking is finished. So you know exactly what you're going to get before you come here. There's none of this, you'll get a Honda CB500X or similar. The bike you pick is the bike you get. And after that, the team at Canary Ride were all absolutely brilliant, really knowledgeable, they really know this island. So if you find yourself in the dark of winter and you desperately want to come and get some biking sunshine, look up Canary Ride at canaryride.com, and if you do, tell them I said hi. And as we get ever closer to the coastline, that pretty much brings us to the end, the absolute final end of this little Canary Island caper. It's been an absolute blast. I've enjoyed the crap out of this whole week. The riding has been nothing short of astonishing. The roads here just do not quit, and there is everything. There's the gentle sweepy ones, there's the super natchety tight ones, there's the really rough wild stuff. There are roads with tarmac that's so smooth it looks like it's been ironed specially for you, and the weather has been pretty fantastic as well. And to be honest, after a long, dark, depressing winter, this definitely was the debut for the riding season of 2023 that I desperately needed. So as I race towards the hump of Galdar in the background there, everything sounds like Lord of the Rings, doesn't it? That pretty much brings us to the end of the enjoyable riding of this whole trip. Thank you so very much for coming along. I hope you've enjoyed this little series, and if you have, please do give it a big fat thumbs up. If you haven't, give it a thumbs down, and maybe ask yourself the question, why have you watched this far if you didn't enjoy it? And finally, get yourself subscribed to the channel if you're not. And if you really enjoyed the series, if you really enjoy the channel, the biggest thing you can do is to share it about, tell your friends, tell your postman, tell your hairdresser, tell anyone who'll listen. After that, keep your eyes peeled, lots of exciting things still coming up. All that's left for me to do now is to blast my way along the coastline and then give this awesome machine back to the lovely folks at Canary Ride. After which I get to spend one more day on the beach with the missus, and then it's back home to real life. So until next time, I wish you twisty streets, warm sunshine and grippy tyres, and I will see you in the next one. Here we are, back where it all began, Canary Ride. Awesome, absolutely fantastic, thank you. Thank you so much.